A 9 by 12, and it's the rear. Wow. It looks beautiful here, but it's kind of noisy today. There's been a tree crew across the lake there, so sorry about that. Hey Jim, checking in from North Carolina. You know, we've been looking very hard for the new Garrett's Garage headquarters, and we've seen some pretty interesting places. I'm going to show you a little bit of it here, and we'll let you kind of see what I've been looking at. First off, we have the dairy barn. That building on the left is the workshop. We'll see inside of it in a minute. The building in front is what they call the commercial kitchen. It's not really. The small barn, well, it was just sort of an old hay barn. That big barn there, that's a wedding venue. That's Shannon at the silo, and it was empty. All this pasture land was included, but really I was interested in it primarily for that enormous barn, thinking that could be my new headquarters. And I also like the idea of the sort of commercial kitchen. This is the inside of the workshop. I think it was about 1,500 square feet, and as you could see, it didn't look like they'd really started moving at all yet. I mean, I kind of like the old Jeep there. It looks like they were putting in a new gas tank, and sort of got stalled. I understand how that goes. This place was being used as a wedding venue, so that's why you see all the parking signs. They would rent out the big barn for weddings. And this is the interior of the big barn, and it was pretty neat looking, but it didn't have any windows. You can see there's lots. I mean, it'd be almost like being outside. The floor was nice, and it just wasn't right for the Garrett's Garage headquarters. And the way it was built, you can see the dry rotted wood. They just sort of sandwiched it, and I don't know. Then there's this house, and I really like this house. It's a little too stuffy, I think, for Shannon, but I really like this place. It was pretty and in a nice area, and next door to it, there was the world's greatest shop ever. It looks like another, matching structure. The whole structure is hollow inside. It's nice, high ceilings. It was really just great. It had a drive-through garage doors on one end, and then you could turn, and there was they had set up a little like living area, but the walls only were 8 feet tall. The ceilings were probably, 17, 20 feet tall, something like that at the peaks. And so they only had 8-foot walls, but you could I could have a living room set up there, man cave, whatever you want to call it, and have my cars parked right in there with it. I could even probably fit the bus in there. So it was pretty cool. Next. But first, one more clip of the last house. That's me pointing to the oversized 2-car garage on one end of the house. And then that's the side view of the fantastic shop. And it came with, I think it was about 20 acres. So all of that pasture and clear out going into the tree line in the distance is included. So this is a different house altogether. This is a log cabin, which we weren't really too sure if we were keen on the log cabin style, but we went and looked at this one anyway. It was pretty large, and you'll see in a minute that they took their log cabin ethic or decorative taste here to the nth degree, and I immediately named him Bullwinkle. I don't think any of the mounted animals were going to convey. Shannon wouldn't mind if they weren't there. Anyway, this house was interesting if you're into the log cabin thing. It was also a bit of a horse farm, so it had little hay barns like you just see there. And if you notice on the ground, Well, it's not really ground, it's horse manure. I don't think anyone picked up horse manure in a year, maybe longer, and there were still horses on the property. This is another barn that had some pretty serious tractors in it. I think they were actually doing farming, and they had some cattle and some horses on the property. This is the back deck. It was really nice, big, had a nice view. It seemed like it would be a pretty nice place to hang out, but yeah. This is another house that we looked at that we weren't all that impressed with, so I don't think it had much of a shop. It just had sort of a lean-to and two-car garage. Then there was this house. This house we really liked. It was right on a nice little stream. Unfortunately, the property was split in two by this road. The house was built in, I think it was 1905 or something like that, which is a positive for its charm, but not so good for its size. It was extremely small. Some of the rooms weren't even 7 feet. I mean, my head would almost touch the ceiling in some of the rooms, and I'm a little over 6 foot these days. But it was a really neat house. It had a nice oversized two-car garage and this workshop up above, and this workshop is pretty neat. It had like skylights along the sides that helped make it bright during the day. And, it was big enough to maybe get 3 or 4 cars in, still be able to do something to them. But this is the oversized two-car garage. And we did really like this house. It's just, it was just so small. It was, I think it was like 1,100 square feet or something like that. This is the little sitting area by the stream that is on the property. And they have a little barbecue built in, and it was just lovely. The sound the creek made, it was just beautiful. So it was easy to fall in love with a place like this. I could really picture us sitting down there on a summer afternoon, having a cold one, watching the stream go by. But anyway, we went and looked at another place here, and all I was really interested in was the inside of this shop building. It was a nice big shop, had a fairly tall ceiling height. The problem was the house was insane. That's the house up there, up at the end of the driveway. And you opened the front door and you walked into the master bedroom. It was like the original cabin on the left, and they did this crazy addition to it that just didn't really work. And then it rained like crazy, and this is the back deck on the house where we're renting currently. And the lake rose so much, and they had lowered it quite a bit, but the lake rose so much that it sunk our deck for a while. It eventually drained back out, of course. No harm, no foul. Then we went and looked at this place. And this place, again, it had a decent sized shop, nothing crazy, more like really a 3 or 4 car garage. And it was okay. I mean, that's not really big enough to put a car in. It certainly is okay as an office. And this is really 1 car, and then it had another little office off to the side there. So it just wasn't that great of a Garrett's Garage headquarters as far as I was concerned. It did have this indoor arena, but it was a dirt floor, and it was covered in horse manure as well. So, I mean, the dirt floor isn't really going to do me much good. So, the size of the building was nice, but I don't know. It just seemed too much of a horse property. And there's another barn that I thought was pretty interesting, but again, it's dirt floors, and in order to be useful for what I want to do, I'd have to do pretty major renovation works to those outbuildings. Again, the main house was a log cabin. Now, it did have a nice basement with those swinging doors, and I would be able to fit a car in there. We went and looked at this house, which was kind of nuts. A flipper had gotten it, and they were trying to make a quick buck on it by barely doing anything to it and almost tripling the price they paid. This barn here I thought was kind of shallow. I was expecting it to be bigger. The pond here, it kind of looked murky and like gray water, or a gray water tank would look, but I don't know. They said that they fished in it sometimes, but the water looked kind of nasty to me. It didn't smell bad, but anyway. Then we went and looked at this house. This was the least expensive property we looked at by far. And it came with a small house that was very well done, very charming, and this shop. The guy actually ran a professional automotive mechanic service out of this building, and it had a lift already built in, as you can see. And of course, I really like the shop. It's not huge. I was hoping for something big enough for the bus, but it was really neat, and we gave that house serious consideration. And then there's this one. This house is on a nice piece of land. It's up on the top of a knoll. It's back pretty far away from the road. The road is a fairly low-traveled road, and it's got this. A nice big shop building with a big enough door and enough length where I'd be able to bring in the bus. So that's got my attention. Yes, indeed. It's sitting on like 4.5 acres, and then there's this road that leads up through the woods that goes to an additional 14 acres. It's all attached. So there's the house down there, and that is the shop building. So they're fairly close together. And it's just a really nice plot of land. So this one seems like it's got lots of possibility. Well, so that's it. I have been working my fingers to the bone, trying to find a new headquarters, a new place to get into some car hijinks. And there's some good possibilities. We've only really been looking for maybe 10 days or so. We saw a lot more than I showed you. Some of them were absolutely nuts. Every one of them needs a lot of renovation. Even that last one that I showed you that has a big enough a workshop for the bus to fit in, the interior is all very dated and it needs a lot of work. It's got, light colored shag carpet everywhere and that kind of stuff. And all of them, frankly, all of them are like that. There was the brick colonial house with a really great shop building. That one, the bathrooms and the kitchen need to be completely redone. They're stuck in the 80s or the 70s even. So, there's things to be done at all of these to make them perfect. But that's all right. We're having fun looking, and we're finding some real good possibilities. And I'm just hoping we're going to be in the new headquarters soon, because I want to get back to work playing with my stuff. Thanks for watching.
We all know who is at fault here. What the fuck are you talking about? Huh?
No, what the fuck are you? I'm not. We're talking about unchecked aggression here.
What the fuck is he talking about?
My rug.
Forget it, Donnie. You're out of your element.
Walter, the Chinaman who peed on my